Welcome everybody to Stock Analysis Friday. It's great to have you here. My name is Bennett McDowell with TradersCoach.com. All right, so today I want to discuss a little bit about the markets as well as look up symbols that you have for me today. Now, quite quick thing I want you to do is when you type the symbols into the comments area, please type them in caps. It helps me see them, of course, much more clearly. Now, this is a webinar really for you all because I want to give you guys a second opinion based off technical analysis and also our proprietary art trading software along with some of our other software tools as well. So go ahead and start typing in the symbols in the comments area. I'm going to cover a few administrational items while you do that. So let's get going. Okay, first thing I have to, of course, go over are the risks involved in trading. Without those risks, of course, I always say there is no opportunity. So the two really go hand in hand. But we want you to be aware of the risks, and it is possible to lose some or all your money trading the financial market. So you need to realize that. That's why we suggest you use risk control on each and every trade. In fact, it's absolutely vital you do so. And also to trade with money you can afford to risk, called risk capital. That's also important. And then one final note, before you actually take any of the trades we recommend or suggest or go over here, check with your financial advisor, accountant, or attorney to be sure these concepts that we discussed today are suitable for you, because we don't know your personal situation and they, of course, do. So definitely go over that with them. All right, I've got a number of books, and the book on the far right is my brand new book called Money Management for Traders. If you're having trouble with risk control or implementing a risk control program into your trading rules, that's the book for you. It's concise, it's inexpensive. We want everybody to be using risk control. So we've really priced this to make it very affordable. And all the concepts you need are in that. I have a book on the far left called The Trader's Money Management System, which is a white colored book. That's a very comprehensive book. It's an excellent book. But the book on the right is going to take the key concepts in that, kind of like Cliff Notes, and really bring it home for you. So definitely check out that. And of course, we have other books as well on technical analysis and how to run your trading business. All right, we're going to be using a variety of software tools here today. We use charting software. We have scanners. We have risk control. I'm not going to go into all these, but if you're interested in any of these, check out our website, get on our mailing list, and you can see more about it. And then finally, like, subscribe, and share. The more people we have showing up today, the more stocks we can look up and the more opportunities we can uncover. All right, let me just quickly show you, and I want to thank you all for attending as well, of course. Let me just quickly get out of here and let's go into the actual market here. And one of the things I want to show you on this particular chart, this was done, I do this as a long-term chart. It's a weekly chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And I last updated this May 1st, but it's still appropriate for today. We're going to look at the live chart in just a moment. But we've been, of course, calling, many of you that know us, we've been calling for a major correction now for quite some time. And it looks like now things have progressed enough that we're going to see that happen currently. So it's on its way. So a couple things I want to point out. One is we had a short position initiated here early in 2022. With a stop way high near the high. And that so far has been a very profitable position. It has also not been stopped out. And we think we now have begun a wave down. Now, this is a correction. And what I'm going over is when I forecast where price corrections go, I use a combination of both Elliott wave and Fibonacci retracement. So the wave 4 target zone is a culmination of those two forms of technical analysis. Elliott wave and fib retracement. The fib retracement for a high probability corrective zone on this correction is between 38.2 and 61.8%. And you can see that highlighted here. Now that equates into a correction of around 23,000 all the way down to 15,014 on the Dow. That's right, back into the teens, unfortunately. Again, this is a weekly chart. Each price bar represents a full week of activity. So this is considered a long-term chart, and thus we're in a long-term correction. Wave 3 we feel is over on the weekly chart, and we've begun the A wave down. Now, A wave is going to end at some point, and we're getting closer and closer to that ending point. And then we're going to have a bullish B wave up to here. And then we're going to have a significant drop with the final leg down into C wave. And that's exactly where it will end, somewhere in down in here. And then, of course, things will turn around and we'll head back up. So you kind of got to wait for that in order to go back into the markets. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. This indicator here is called the PTF, or Precision Trend Filter. And the PTF has been red for quite some time, indicating that the COVID low that occurred in 2020 was so strong down that any correction after that is going to go below that. So we're pretty confident based on this indicator, because it has a 75% accuracy rate, that we're going to be going down below the COVID low during the final stage of this wave 4 sell-off. All right, so kind of just want to alert you now. And also too, after A wave is done, after this thrust down is done, then we're going to have a lengthy bullish B wave. And B wave, it fools a lot of people. A lot of people think the correction's over, and then something happens after B wave to cause the market to decline once again. And that is something that the Elliott wave has for corrections, that says this is a pattern that reoccurs time and time again for quite a long period of time. So I think we're in this correction for a while. I think it's going to be several years before we ever see another high like we've seen before this sell-off. So I just kind of want to go over that. If you have any questions in that, feel free to, of course, let me know in the questions area. All right, let me come out of here. Let's just quickly take a look at the live charts for a moment. I'm going to go to that weekly chart that I just showed you, but currently show you in real time. And you can see how this pyramid trading point, which is something we use to enter the markets, was triggered here way back in early spring, actually winter to spring. And the stop, you know, we keep way up here. So we've been in this thing all the way. We're entering, here's our target zone way down here. And of course, here is the COVID low as well, down in this area here. So this is A wave, probably will go a little further, B wave, and C wave. So B wave can last several months, and it's bullish. So a lot of people will think the actual correction is over. So I'm just going to warn you, don't get lulled into that. From what we see, this is just the beginning of a more extended correction. We were waiting, this is the daily chart in the center. So we were waiting for prices to go below this support level before we declared a more confirmation of a long-term correction. And that occurred, of course, last week. So everything is probabilities. This is certainly not a guarantee, but definitely a probability of what we think is going to unfold. Now, if the market surprises us and is extremely bullish, takes out our stop on our pyramid, then of course things change. Can that happen? Yes, that's why we use risk control. But that's probably not as likely as the scenario that I've just discussed about a major sell-off. So I just wanted to share that with you and let you know. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the picks you want to look at today. And let me just go through the chat area. Great to have everybody here. Thanks for being here, folks. All right, so I think the first one is, let's see, let me type this in. And this is going to be for the spider here. All right, so this one is for, all right, Zivkovic, this is for you. Okay, so obviously very similar to the Dow, we're moving down. We think we're getting close to a moderate bottom at some point, but it's still bearish. It has not turned around yet. So you don't want to just, think that we have a possible moderate bottom and buy here at some point for a retracement trade. Instead, I would probably be looking to somewhat hedge your long positions and maybe look for a short trade after we get a little bullish bounce at some point here. So very similar to what I just told you on the Dow applies, of course, to the spider here as well. All right, so let's take a look. Dan, how are you? Good to have you here today. WRB, let's check out WRB and see what's cooking on that one. All right, so WRB, nice uptrend. It's been in for a while, and it looks like now it's kind of in an area where it's consolidating, getting a little toppy here, Dan. See, look at this area here. You've had a number of movements up here, a number of pyramids. You would have been stopped out of a long trade on this bottom of the pyramid here. That's what we use for our trailing stops. We've got a red owl. This owl here represents momentum. So the momentum is turned bearish, as you can see here. It's bearish here, still a little bullish here, but look at this. We also have a bearish PTF long term. So I think once this top has been reached, if it hasn't already, then a little bit of concern here. Now, what's interesting for long-term trades, you have not been quite stopped out yet. So if you're in this from a more of a long-term stance, you want to have your stop right under this level here. Okay, so you're close. All right, just be ready. And then you do want to get out if you get stopped out. Now, it's probably going to go into a correction, but then also look how powerful this owl is here. So I think probably what you're going to have is a pullback at some point, just like on the Dow, and then it's going to go back up. Okay, but I think it's going to be a long time once this correction is done for it to do that. So I kind of think get out of long positions at this point, wait it out, wait for the correction, and then take a look to get back in. Okay, ON is here. Let's take a look at that. Let's second to load on your end there. Okay, here's ON. We looked at this before, and if you remember, we were looking at a retracement level down to this level here, and it looks like we're heading on down. Now, that's a short-term retracement level, but let's take a look and see what's cooking over here on the longer-term situation. All right, pretty much the same, okay? So we think at this particular point, I would not go long on this yet. We're still coming down. 60-minute chart is still bearish. We just have a bearish owl here. So I'd give it a little bit more time on this. And you can see on this chart here, this is a first huge move up. So the retracement level based on these numbers is going to be right around here. And that's if it's going to make another quick high. Otherwise, you're going to have to really wait it out a little bit longer on this. So I would say if you're in this market, you're probably out now. Don't buy in until you get a go on the daily chart. And that's how I would play that. And you have to, of course, have a go on the 60-minute chart too. So that is ON. All right, give me a second while I look at the others. I got to find where I was. I think you had one more, right? I lost you. Okay, let me go to TLT. TLT is a good one. That's the bonds, of course. And, you know, a lot of people think the bonds are going to be a great place to go into during a market sell-off. But I can tell you right now, it's not quite right to do that. Now, what I do like about the bond market is I love to get in at the beginning of a possible new trend. So when this thing turns around, then I think it's going to be quite good. But it's got a long time. I mean, look how bearish this is. So this is not over yet, and this is a major owl. So I can't see recommending bonds at this point. All right, I just don't see it from a technical standpoint, and I would hold off on that. So if you're short, hey, stay short. You know, look, you've been short on this. Technically, if you went in on the first pyramid right in here, and you could have trailed your stops right down here, and your stop would be here. All right, you have bullish divergence building. If you want to use one of these signals in the opposite direction that the ARP produced, you could scale out on those. But overall, you want to stay short. Doesn't mean you're not going to get some form of correction, but you're kind of, the emphasis here is still to the downside, okay? So you got to be careful about that one. That is TLT, and that is for the bonds. Okay, I found you again here, Dan. So let me put in your Eli Lilly, LLY. Let's see, take a look at that one. Give that a second to load. I'm glad you asked about the bonds because that was a really good one as well. All right, so here we got a situation on this where we're still in a bullish uptrend on the weekly chart. So we're looking at the weekly here on the far right, hasn't broke the pyramid. We still got bullish momentum it's still a bullish trend. We've got a little bit of topping that's occurring on the daily chart. We now have bearish momentum coming in now. So we may be at a point where this may go ahead and go into a correction. You know, when you talk about a weekly chart, a great way to look at this is that think of the weekly chart like an aircraft carrier, okay? It's hard to turn that big ship. It's the last ship to turn in the fleet in terms of how it can turn fastly or slowly. Whereas the smaller charts, the daily and even the 60, represent your smaller ships that can turn quicker. So what I'm saying with this is that you're going to see these charts here be a lot more sensitive than this chart on the far right. So when I say that this could be going into a correction, I'm basing that information on the fact that the smaller time frames are starting to shift and go negative, but it is not reflective yet on the weekly chart, but it could be. Okay, so you got to have a little heads up there. So in this case here, all right, I probably would not take any more long positions, and I would probably put my stop right at the bottom of this pyramid here on the weekly chart. All right, just in case it breaks back to the upside one more time before it does go into a correction. So that's kind of how I would look at that. Hopefully that was a good analogy for you to understand that. All right, and then PayPal, PYPL. Give that a second to load there. All right, definitely has been coming down. All right, clear short trade on the daily chart in the center, clear short trade on the right chart. And it looks like here we've got an owl that's still negative and very, very decisive to the downside. We no longer have red PTFs, which is this in the center. Okay, so those are all neutral. So we're probably getting close to a bottom. We also see, of course, bullish divergence starting to build here. But I think we also could get one more low before this thing turns around. So just so you know, if this thing turns around at any point, you may have a good possibility for a long trade, and it could go up to the inflection point, which would basically be right around here for a Fibonacci trade. So you could almost double your money. So I'd keep an eye on this and put this on a watch list for a possible long trade only after the momentum shifts though. It's still heading down. And if you have a short position, stay short and use these stops. You can use a stop here, the pyramid here, or here. Both those have not been stopped out yet. All right, so you can use those. So that looks pretty good. All right, so let's keep going here. Let's see what else we got here. Give me a second, just while I locate the next one. All right, Aggie, how are you? Okay, XLE. Let's go for that one for you. Give that a second to load. There she blows. All right, you can see on this one, clear break now to the downside. If you were trading the daily chart, you would have been stopped out here. However, if you got the weekly chart pyramid, you are still in this from a long-term stance. So what's going to happen with this? All right, so this is still very, very strong. This is coming down. You can see it coming down over there. And you have a lot of red on the short-term chart here. So I would imagine if you were long, you're out. All right, do not go back in yet because the 60-minute chart is still extremely bearish. This could turn red. We're going to watch this to see if that turns red. So I would imagine you're going to get a pretty good correction on this. It looks to me like you're heading in that direction. So I'm thinking maybe fib retracements on this. Let me just check yeah, I would think probably what happens here. Let me just draw them in for you. So let's go to the fib retracements. Kind of maybe right around in here is your target between 68 and 52.5. Okay. So don't buy into this. Let it get to the target. And then let's see if momentum comes back by having a green owl and a little bit more green on the short-term charts. Okay. So hold off on that for now. All right, let's take a look at XLU. And give that a second to load there. All right, that's kind of, boy, that's kind of a little bit of that's a tough chart to trade because on the daily or the weekly, because look how it is kind of volatile. But notice if you drop down to the right time frame, like the 60-minute, it's an easy trade to trade these swings in the market. So this is being represented by this, and the pyramids pick that right up. Okay, so you're in pretty good shape if you're trading that. You kind of want to stay short here because you have a red PTF indicating more lows here. You may get a correction before that low because it looks like wave 3 is almost over. So this would be a 4, this would be a 5. So this is saying more lows, which would correlate to a wave 5 low, but you may get a little bit of a boost in terms of a rebound before that happens, okay? But if you're long at this point, you should be out. All right, Key, how are you? Key, CRSP. You guys are doing great today. A lot of good ones here today. All right, so this is one, actually, it's kind of interesting. Now, notice here on the weekly chart, we don't go back, this stock is what, 2017. So on the weekly chart, you can see where data ends here. So not a lot of data, but we've had a 3. We've had the ABC big correction. I would even say that's probably a wave 2. So maybe a 1, 2. So we're getting ready for a big move to the upside. We got a green PTF here. I would say this one looks good. The only thing that would hold me back from going long is this needs to be green over here. So this could turn green today for all we know. So you want to keep an eye on that. It may turn green next week, but it's very close. So don't go long until it turns green. If it never does, then that means it may sell off again, make one more low before it returns to a new high. So I like CRSP for a watch list. It would have been a great one to recommend today if the PTF on the 60-minute chart, of course, was green or at least yellow. All right, let's take a look at STNG and give that a second to load. All right, so this one, definitely a big pull up. This daily chart here, give this a second to fully load. All right, so we've got a big move up. Looks like it's represented here by putting the weekly chart move up that we see here under the magnifier, and that basically is what you do when you look at a daily chart. So big move up, nice trade. Looks like it's getting toppy. That's a classic toppy type of pattern. You can see it here. When the owl starts to oscillate, you know you're in a area of volatility, which kind of usually occurs during a top because people aren't sure whether to go in or take profits or whatever. So I would probably not go long here, but if you were long already, I mean, the pyramid is really, really low here to try to keep you into the next leg up. So what I would do if I were you, we had a 1B reversal here, and that was hit. So it's not too late. I'd probably take off maybe a third or a half a position here and wait for the retracement and add that position back on for another leg up. This is green, so it's not done going higher. It's probably going to pull back into the $25 range or so before it heads back up. Okay, let's just draw a quick fib retracement on this just to be sure that pyramid is sitting. Okay, that pyramid stop is sitting right in the lower half of the target range. So you may want to put the stop just under the fib here to give it a little more room, okay? Nothing wrong with doing that. Unless you want to get out entirely and try to get back in here. But I certainly would definitely scale out some there. And that's STNG. All right, let's keep going here. RDFN for Al, RDFN. Give that a second to load on your end. Okay. All right. So Al, you've picked one that has really been coming down. What a great short trade that would have been. Holy camoly. Look at that. Boom. All right. But what now? Okay. So what we're looking for, I actually like these type of things to put on a watch list because they're really good in terms of watching what's going on with this. So when we take a look at something like this, look at the owl. We've got bullish divergence building here. So that's a good sign. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost like 8 or 9 pyramids that have been all P's. So this trend is getting a little overdone, but the 60-minute chart says it's not done yet. We've got a red PTF, so it looks like even if we get a rebound, it should come back down. So I don't think we have a bottom in yet, but I would watch this one like a hawk, because when it does bottom, you'll have a nice position to get a long trade. Notice the owl here and the PTF on the weekly chart are still red as well. So definitely not a buy right now, but keep an eye on it. And hopefully you're short, okay? If you're short, just use one of the pyramids on the daily chart before it rebounds, okay? And you'll be in good shape. All right, let's see what else we got. ACGL, ACGL. Give that a second to load. Al, I don't see any data for that one yet. ACGL, you might want to check that, okay? Let's try ENTA. All right, here's the data for ENTA. All right, so let's see what we got cooking here. All right, so ENTA, this is for Kenneth. How are you, Kenneth? All right, so very interesting. Okay, shorter time frames, we've got bearish PTFs and red owls. All right, so even though you've got a bullish pyramid that formed here, you do not take that because you don't want to go against this and this. All right, that's how we screen or filter what pyramids are the best ones. So don't take that one. All right, this one's got a couple forming here, but quite honestly, no long positions yet on this. This is still coming down. This has a green PTF. You want to watch that to make sure it stays green. So I'm thinking maybe at some point here, we're hovering right around the bottom. We can get a long trade in, but apparently it's not done coming down yet. So you don't want to go into that too early, okay? So I would stay out of that. If you're short, you're in great shape, which you say you are. What I would do is I would probably exit the short positions when the PTF on the daily chart turns yellow, maybe scale out of some short positions when the PTF on the 60-minute chart turns yellow. That's how I would probably manage that trade, okay? But I would not just hang in there forever because you have a green PTF on the weekly chart. If that changes red, then that changes things. But so far, the reality is it's not, okay? So that's how I would handle that trade. Good job being short on it. All right, that's ENTA. All right, let's take a look at NVIDIA. All right, nice big move up. Look at that. Let's open up that weekly chart for a minute. That is a wave 3, folks. I mean, you cannot look at that and not realize that's a wave 3. Now, little clue. What I like to do when I scan, I like to try to find markets where they're sleepy, because we know that markets tend to remain fairly bracketed in some form or another about 65% of the time. Okay, this occurrence is not always. That's about 35% of the time that they trend really big like that. So what we want to try to do is find them so we're not getting in here, but instead we're getting in down here. You know, buy low, sell high, right? Okay, so the idea is you put these on a watch list when they're range bound, and when they pop out, that's when you go ahead and pull the trigger to get in and try to catch that long trend. All right, so what's going on with NVIDIA now? All right, let's draw some fib retracement tools. Let's grab our retracements, do it from the bottom here. I have a very particular way I draw these, and we're right smack in the target zone. We've got a green PTF here, pretty deep owl so far. It has to be red for it to be a wave 4. So this is a 3, and this is a 4. Notice here the owl is telling us it's a 3, and it's correct. So that's a 3, that's a 4. And so after 4 is finished, then we get 5. All right. Question is 4 finished? Let's check the shorter time frames. Okay, so we are getting a situation where we have a red owl here. It's red here, but improving. No longer a red PTF on the short-term time frames. So I'm thinking we're getting kind of close, maybe for a long trade at some point. Not quite ready yet, but we want to keep an eye on this, okay? Now, here's an example. If you went long here, you're out of the market, okay? Because it got stopped out. So you kind of want to wait now until we get another bottoming finished, and at least what we think is a bottom finish, and then try again, okay? Because the payoff is going to be huge. You know, you're going to go from in the 150s all the way up. It should go all the way up to about 400. So that's a pretty big increase. At least 350 on the PTF, maybe 400 on the fib extension once this thing is done. So you definitely want to participate when that bottom is in. All right, too late to short NVIDIA? Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to short it now. It's already in the target range. But look for the long trade, okay? All right, what else? Okay, did I look up XLE? I don't think so. I might have missed one. If I miss one, just remind me, okay? Because it's very easy to miss them when you're looking at the chat area. XLE, I guess, I think I covered this one, right? This one's still heading down, going into the target zone. So I think probably the target zone is around 68 to 52, okay, on that one. So if you're long, you would have been stopped out on the daily. You have, if it's a long-term trade on the weekly, your stop would be a little bit lower, okay? All right. So, okay, Al's got the symbol. He wants me to look up ACGL. Let's take a look at that one. Okay, so Al, I'm sorry. What are you doing on this one? Are you long, short, thinking about it? What's cooking on this bad boy? Okay, I'll get to Visa in just a minute. Thanks. All right, so on this one here, we're in a correction. All right, we've taken out the pyramids on the long-term charts. Okay, so even if you had a nice ride up here, you're out now. Here at this particular point, if you wanted to consider a short trade, you could, that would probably be a more better move than considering a long trade, because the trend is so extended and it appears to be over. Okay, so yeah, okay, so let's take a look at this and just see where a retracement on this level could be. But let me take a look at the long-term chart and see if that doesn't mimic more the Dow. Yeah, I think probably at this particular point, you got to be really careful here. Here's the COVID low. All right, very similar to the Dow, but we do not have a red PTF on the weekly chart. To me, there's not enough dots to connect to do much of anything on this, okay, except maybe a short trade on the daily chart. But, you know, it's already had a pretty big breakdown. This is the target. So your risk to reward is not quite there. All right, so I would pass on this one. Right direction, but not quite, you know, the deal on that. All right, Visa. Let's take a look at Visa. And this is for you, Aggie. Give that a second to load. Okay, here we go. All right. So again, let's take a look at that weekly chart first. Can't miss that. Wave 3. Boom. Okay. Very similar to the Dow. I think kind of we're coming down. All right. I don't think we're quite down there yet. Let's draw a fib retracement and see where we think we're going on this bad boy. Probably 163 to 106. You could take a short trade now, but the only problem is your risk to reward is a little on the tight side. I'd love for your stop to be here on the pyramid, and there you have it. So Is the trade better to take a short here or wait for it to get down to the target zone? I'm going to let you decide for yourself on that. But a short trade into the target zone, it looks likely. All right. If we use the daily chart, you can see a red PTF, and also we're kind of bearish on the 60 minutes still too. So we may get a little pop at some point. You may even be able to get a better price. You know, if this thing pops up here at some point and heads back down, maybe a buy in here would be better, but I'll leave that up to you. In any case, it's heading to the target zone. Okay. And that is that one. All right. Let's see what, okay. GM, let's check out GM. And that does not mean good morning, General Motors. All right, so, ooh, this is kind of an interesting situation. So let's take a look at this and open this one up. All right, so it blew right past our carefully chosen fib retracement area. So that's not a wave 4. So we can remove all this stuff. This was from several weeks ago, I guess, or months ago. All right, so we can remove that. And what do you think? Kind of messy, right? Maybe 3, 4, 5, and now we are in, at this point, a new movement to the downside. Maybe we'll test the bottom here at some point. So again, no go on this one to the long side. It's still coming down. It's too late to go short, I think, at this point. If you want to go short, wait for a rebound and see how the charts look then. But this I would put off to the side. Okay. All right. SQQQ. And this one is an inverse ETF on the Nasdaq. So this is a great product if you want to try to hedge your portfolio. Some people like ETF, some people don't. But I think they're actually really good. And I don't recommend the triples or even the doubles. Just go with the straight ETFs. But in a case like this, all right, definitely we're starting to move off a bottom. And if you think about what's going on in the markets, because this sell-off in the market, it didn't just affect the Dow, it affected every major sector, including the Nasdaq, which is what this is telling us here. So if we think the market is in an A wave and it's going to be eventually much lower than it is now, then this is something you'd want to buy. So if you have an IRA and they don't allow you to short the market or do options, then this is a tremendous product for you to buy this, because it is considered a purchase in an IRA. And that would be the equivalent of shorting the Nasdaq. All right. And there's also ones for the Dow, the dog, you know, DOG is an inverse. So we got a lot of those as well. So where is this thing going? I would think we're going to see a pretty good move. I think you're going to double, maybe triple your money on this one if the market does not make another high before it sells off. And we don't think it will. Okay. Of course, always use stops. Put your stop under here and calculate your trade size and leave it alone. Okay. That's what I would recommend for that. So Key, that one was for you. Okay. My pleasure. Okay. So you're short on GM, put options out to November. Okay. Let's go back and see how I would manage an already existing short position on GM for you, Al. All right. So very simply put, all right, we're kind of getting a little bit in the overextended area. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pyramids in a row. I see bullish divergence here. I would hold on to them for a little bit. I think probably you'd want your stop here. And let me just remove those fibs because I think they're kind of confusing having those there. So let's just remove those. So that's kind of where I would have your stop. I don't know how large your position is, but I would probably scale out at some of these down here. So I think you're going to get a rebound on this, and the rebound could be to $50. So you kind of got to be careful here not to get stuck giving your profit away. Okay. I don't think you're going to make it to November without suffering a pullback, a bullish pullback on the chart. Okay, just to let you know. But that's just my opinion. Okay. All right. Okay, so it's small right now. So you can decide on that. I'd probably put the stop right here. All right. If you have a couple different, more than one contract, maybe scale out here one or whatever you have. Okay, sure. Absolutely. All right. Anything else? Wow, great ones. I got to tell you, the market is moving down though. Okay. Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a look at our three ones that we always like to look at. Let's take a look at the crypto. I always like to look at this one every week. This is the ETF for GBTC and moving down. Okay. And boy, I'll tell you, you got a red PTF now on the daily, so you don't want to touch this to the long side yet. Be interesting to see if this holds over here and stays green. So far, what this chart is telling us is it's blown past the wave 4. We're already now pulling back. So either this is a 1 and this is going to be a 2. But if this turns red, then who knows where this thing is going to go to the downside. But you don't want to buy into it at all right now. I think it's probably too late to short it. I'd leave it alone. Don't touch it. Okay, at this point. And people that did not use risk control on this, they probably lost their shirt on it. And you always, any trade you make, always use risk control. Even if it's one that, months ago, GBTC, Bitcoin was the talk of the town. Couldn't go wrong with it. You were going to be a multimillionaire Bitcoin person. But the problem is, it's like every other market, okay, things happen. And so you always have to use risk control, and you always have to calculate your trade size. So you don't want to be betting more than you can risk appropriately for any one trade, whether it's Bitcoin or an ETF or a stock, okay? So always use risk control so it's not a disaster. It's just a normal stop, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, let's take a look at CVX for you, Aggie, here. And then I'm going to look at, whoops, sorry about that. Then I'm going to look at silver, I think, too. Silver and gold, and then if nobody has any more, we'll go ahead and call it a day there. All right, so what we have here is now a trend here that is now in a selling mode. So if you look at the 60-minute chart, we've got bearishness, strong bearishness. Okay, strong, strong, strong. Now we have here a red owl and almost red down here. So this is in a correction mode. I think probably at this point, the bull run is over on this one. And let's just see, open this thing up on the weekly chart. And there's your COVID low there. But it doesn't look like it may not take that out. But at the very least, let's draw a couple of retracements from here to here. So probably 138 to 110. And we'll take a look at it and see if it blows through that or that holds. Okay. So I think it's too late to go short right now. I think you missed it. This was a tough one to capture unless you had the 60-minute chart up there. Okay. Okay. So I would leave this one alone for right now. All right. All right. Silver. Let's take a look at the ETF for silver. And it's still not a buy. Okay. I know people are saying out there on YouTube, buy silver, but it's not a buy. You got a red PTF here. You have a red owl here. This is technically not bullish divergence because this low is not below this low. So you can't have divergence until that is. And yeah, we're getting a little bit of a move up here. A little too early to say if this is going to bounce more than, I don't think it'll bounce more than 22 before it sells off if this stays red. Okay. I just go with the probabilities. So I think in terms of the target zone on this chart here, I think we're kind of in an area where we kind of want to look for a bottom, but I don't think it's quite there yet because of the bearishness still on the daily chart. And the 60-minute chart has some bullishness, but I think it's representing the rebound maybe up to about 21 or 22. And then we're going to have to see what happens. Now, quick thing to do, anytime you have a situation like this, go to the point of inflection, which is basically no different than a fib retracement, and take the 50% mark, which would be right about here. So this is where we think it could be rebounding to based on this information here. The question comes is, what does the market do when it gets to the point of inflection? Does it go through it or go down? The red PTF, the probabilities of it should bounce to the downside. If things, of course, markets 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 2 in the markets. In other words, things don't always do as you think. If it blows through here, then it may even turn this green at some point, but that's bullish. Then you got to see if this high holds. All right, so that's how you kind of use points of inflection for quick analysis. All right, last one I would want to take a look here as gold. If anybody has anything else, I'll be glad to take a look at that, okay? All right, let's see. All right, so gold, all right, green PTF on the weekly and the daily. All right, getting close to a long position here. I was kind of saying before I'd like to be long gold, but I can't get long because at the particular point we have a red owl here. If this turns green, I'll take a long position on this. All right, and we'll see what happens with that. But for right now, I got to hold off a little bit. The other thing that concerns me a little bit is that we have a red owl here. So if I go long here, let's say this goes green and this stays red. What I would do, even if I want to go long still here, I would cut the position in half. That's what I do when I go against an owl on a long-term chart. Just saying. Okay, that's the way I do it. All right, Mark has another one here. Let's take a look at that. PDBC. PDBC. That's a hard one to say. PDBC. Say that 10 times. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, love this one. Okay, big move up. Let's see what okay, so this goes back to about 2015. Huge move, wave 3. Owl caught it. Definitely going up. All right, it's mature. Okay, it's been nice to catch it a little lower after the breakout here. Okay, on this pyramid. But if you caught it there, then you ride it all the way up. Let's see how I would handle this at this point, because we'll probably get a pullback at some time. Let's see what we got. All right, so the lower time frame chart, the daily chart, is showing a green PTF. So we should have another high before a major correction. That's kind of the way I'm looking at that. Now, if this goes red, okay, then I'd probably go ahead. We're probably got to stop here. I'd probably scale out of a half a position at the very least on this, if this remains green. Okay, that's how I would do that, because it's due for a correction. And even that on the 1 minute chart is going to be a big correction as well. So I wouldn't want to give too much money back. You could always get out and get back in. But on this here, with this, I would say scale out of a half. Okay, if the owl goes red, scale out of a half, and then leave the rest on, and hopefully the correction won't be that deep. Okay, so that's kind of that one. Let's see where we got Frank. Hello, Frank. ACCO. Where do I put? I see short at 839. Where to put my stop? All right. So you've got a red owl and a red PTF on the weekly, Frank. You've got a pretty good owl that's still red on the daily and the 60-minute, but we have no longer a red PTF. So here's the way I would have done that. When this turns yellow, I would take like a third off the table or a half, and I'd have the rest of my stops up here. Okay, that's the way I scale out and manage a trade like this, especially when it's extended. Okay, it's due for a possible bounce at some point. It's still bearish. All right, so you don't want to get out of the trade. But in terms of an actual stop loss placement, you know, unfortunately, you got in at what, 839, so a high of what, 752. So 7.52 is where you want to get it for a out altogether. So I would lock in a little profit maybe now. And I'd say that because this turned yellow. And then put the rest here and leave it alone. Okay. All right. Mark, did I help you? You've been looking for an entry. Hopefully I helped you on that one. I think you had asked about what, PDBC, right? Let me bring that one up again. Yeah, it's too late. Let me just see. My pleasure, Frank. Okay, so yeah, I don't think I would go long here, Mark. It's getting too toppy here. Instead, probably if you want to go long, wait for the pullback. I think you'll be able to get in around 14 bucks when this thing finally breaks to the downside. Okay. The problem is that you don't want to fall, Mark, into the mindset. I remember, you know, during a bull market, what brokers like to do is every time there's a pullback in the market, they like to call you and tell you, okay, you know, we have a pullback in the market, bull market, let's get back in, great opportunity to get in. So you do that, all right? Maybe it works 1 or 2 times, but then when the market tops and heads down, they'll call you again because they probably won't realize the market's broke. And then you start buying in to a downtrend instead of a pullback. And that's where problems exist. And that's what I see with this. All right. I think a buy-in at a pullback here is extremely risky because the trend is very mature. All right. So that's why I always like to look for sleeping markets and get that initial first breakout because it puts the odds in your favor that you're getting in early. Okay. So that's my, you know, 10 cents for that. All right. Key fib analysis on Tesla. Let's see what's going on with this baby. All right, let's open up that weekly chart. Woohoo, you gotta love that. Look at that. Okay, so let's draw some fib retracements in. And we're in the target zone for a fib retracement. We still got bearishness here. But let's see what the short-term time frames are showing. Okay, so we got a bullish PTF on the daily, liking that, because you're going to have a wave 4 with a bullish PTF the entire time. That's not unusual. So what I would wait is I'd wait for this to go green. This has to be green. Make sure this does not go red. And make sure this one stays green or yellow. So yellow is okay to go long. Red would not be. So I would say, let's see if this bottom holds, if we get one more low, wait for the breakup, wait for the pullback, and see if the next bottom holds and then go. You know, hopefully you'll get a pyramid drawing in here as well. But I don't think I would go in quite yet. Close, but no cigar yet. But a good one to keep an eye on, okay? All right. So, I think I went through them all. Did I miss anybody's? Good. I think we got them. All right. Well, great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. And it's always a fun day for me to get to talk to you guys in this format and maybe help you by looking up a couple stocks for you and see where it's going. And always interesting. I don't think we found one today that I think we could bank on. I think the market's unraveling and we have to kind of wait and see, you know, where it's going on this first big leg down. I think we're close to a bottom, but it could go on another week or two. It's hard to say, but we're getting there. Okay. So I don't see anything else in the chat area. So I think we're good to go. And again, thank you for being here. Have a great week. Enjoy the summer, and we'll see you back here next Friday for Stock Analysis Friday. Take care.